Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. John Morosi of MLB Network dropped a little bit. I don't even want to say a little bit. It was a bombshell. It was a bombshell for Braves country, right? Because whether you think that the Braves are going to be these massive spenders that would go out and target a talent like Otani, who is likely to garner the biggest contract in MLB history or not, the very fact that he says Otani is intrigued by the idea of playing for the Braves. Now, one thing Otani has made abundantly clear over the last 2 years, and it's why most people believe he is for sure gone from the Los Angeles areas, at least unless he wants to play for the Dodgers, but he's done with the Angels, is he wants to be a part of a contender. Obviously, he's going to want to get paid, but I think that might not be the number one priority because whoever gets him is going to pay him, right? But if it's the difference between $450 million or $550, there might be a legitimate thing where he's like, I'd rather go to a place like Atlanta that is set up for success for the next decade and competing for championships. And the very fact that he's intrigued has to tickle the peach of every single Braves fan in Braves country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was once a pipe dream, has now been, the box is open, the window is open, the door is open, however you want to say it. The thought of Otani donning the tomahawk across his chest is in the minds of every Braves fan. It will be by the end of the day. Once people get off work and start scrolling through their news, wherever they get it, they're going to start seeing Otani in a Braves uniform and let the hype start because there's very few clubs that can compete with the Braves in terms of how they're set up to win for the next decade. Very few. Now, obviously, Morosi included or prefaced with the Dodgers are still the favorites and they should be considered the favorites because, they have that geographical location. They are a very well-run organization and they are also set up for the, not as well as the Braves, but they are still set up to be winners and they win the NL West every single year seemingly. So they are, in a position to offer Otani similar things that the Braves are. But if you want to talk about, the health of our payroll and future payroll, whether, fan-wise, everything about the Braves organization is first class. So if that is Otani's priority, you would be hard-pressed to find another club in baseball better set up. Now, they're not going to be able to spend as much as the Cubs or the Mets or even the Dodgers, but that might not matter to Otani. Like you said, like what's the difference between $100 million to that guy? Because he's already the most famous man in Japan. He's already the face of baseball. No matter what, he will make that $100 million back on the backside, especially if he is winning World Series or at least on the biggest stage in October where he hasn't been in his career. So what is important to him? Nobody exactly knows. I'm sure even the closest people to him don't know. It's probably between him, his agent, and his family. But if he is, prioritizing the health, his mental health in terms of like organizationally, the Braves are a world-class organization, top to bottom. Everybody shows up. They want to work. They're all pulling on the same rope. Whereas in the Angels, it seems like everybody's got their own agenda. Whereas the Braves, everybody is on the same page. We want to win World Series, and we will sacrifice our own personal goals to do so. That could be the most important thing to him. And I don't know why, why aren't the Braves? Let's throw our hats in the mix. Why not?
Well, you got to think if he's intrigued, there will at least be some conversations happening. Now, whether those conversations go anywhere, that remains to be seen. Listen, I talked, I think this was probably months ago on this very show that the Braves are a sleeper team in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. Now, this was before the injuries, and I've kind of backed off on it because I don't think the Braves are necessarily going to want to take that risk because there's no value in what the contract he's going to get if he's not a star pitcher. And now there's definitely some risk and some questions about not only is he going to miss all of 2024 after undergoing Tommy John surgery, he'll probably miss at least half of 2025 as a pitcher. And then you got to question whether he can even come back. I mean, this is now, I believe, his second Tommy John surgery, and that's sometimes very even harder to come back from. But then again, some guys do it and come back even better. So it's not necessarily a death wish on his future as a pitcher. He's obviously still smack dab in the middle of his prime, but there is now that you can't talk about this conversation for any team without talking about the risk of him not being the same pitcher that he once was, and the fact that he's going to miss at least the next 18 months on the mound. So that's something that you have to consider. But just the fact that we're even having these conversations, that, the Braves have built an organization and are as well run as they are, that a player of the magnitude of Shohei Ohtani would like to come to Atlanta, that itself is a noteworthy development, whether they get him or not, because this is just shows you the standard of organization. I mean, when you think about Japan and you think about Shohei Ohtani and you think about work ethic and you think about buttoned up, doing things the right way, that is what the Atlanta Braves have come. And it's nice to see that someone, a superstar, the face of baseball, the face of global sports in a lot of ways, notices that and wants to come. Now, hopefully those conversations lead something. I'm sure we'll have reports throughout the offseason that we'll talk about, but that alone tickles my peeps. That alone gets me excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about those, circumstances, undergoing Tommy John surgery, the MLB, especially the Braves, really any professional sport, can structure contracts in ways that the average mind like us cannot even comprehend. So there are certainly ways to kind of protect the organization, whether, Ohtani is, there could be incentives like, if he doesn't pitch any innings in 2025, maybe the Braves only owe him X amount. And then if he does pitch, it unlocks an incentive that, basically doubles his contract because he would double his value. So there are certain ways to get around that. Whether he, wants to do that is another thing entirely. Probably wants guarantees. But I promise there are ways to get around, the possibility of him not pitching even in 2025. There are absolutely ways to get around that from an organizational standpoint.
Well, there's ways to get around it. But when you think about the guy's actually coming off an injury, if there's one thing that he's going to want, it's guaranteed. And he's going to get that from someone else. So I like, he's going to get his money. He's going to get paid. The Braves are going to have to step up to the plate. But the one thing that I mentioned when I was originally talking about this entire point and why I think, Shohei Ohtani, the difference between him and so many other free agents is like, you're going to make so much money off getting Shohei Ohtani. Could you imagine whoever gets him, but like getting him out?
You have an entire country who is now your fan base.
Yeah. Like
an entire country.
The battery would look, it's already one of the best spectacles in the sport in terms of fan turnout and around the stadium. You have 100,000 people there on every single game day, enjoying it, spending money, partying, having a great time. It's an unbelievable thing that they did. And every team is trying to emulate that now. Shohei Ohtani comes to town. Oh my God. Oh my God.
About it.
That place, you wouldn't even be able to get it. It might be a 7-hour line outside PBR every night. Like, it would just be an absolute madhouse. The money, the jersey sales, so when you're talking about money, when you're talking about athletes, besides what he brings on the field, the magnitude of who he is as a player is just like, you would be making money hand over fist. Not to mention the Braves would be by far the best team in the league. Like, it would be so disgusting how much better they would be than everybody else that you would have it. I mean, and you'd get it for 10 years. You'd have a decade of baseball, unlike anything we've ever seen from a fan perspective, from an on the field perspective. So there's so many things where it's like, you talk about money, you talk about, is there that one guy that's worth it? He's like that perfect storm where it's like, it just might be worth throwing $500 million at him and saying, whoa, let's see how this thing plans out. And I don't think we've seen nothing in this city. And I know, baseball is not as big as football and stuff like that. We always talk about the South as football. We would not have never seen anything like what baseball in Atlanta, like in sports in Atlanta history, if Shohei Ohtani came to the Braves.
Yeah, this is like KD joining the Warriors. That's like the closest thing that I could compare it to, is the greatest player joining the best team. I mean, that's what it would be. And if you want to talk about it in terms of a value perspective, that's what Anthopoulos thrives on. He translates, every dollar to a war. How much is that guy going to give me? And if you think that he's not also factoring in, at least Terry McGurk, Alex Anthopoulos' boss, who kind of runs the actual operations, he's the president of the Braves. He's absolutely thinking of, how can Ohtani, what will the investment pay us? He is only seeing dollar signs, because not only is Ohtani gonna, bring his entire country, all of Japan will now be a fan of the Atlanta Braves. Think about all the kids, all the grassroots that you're now gonna have a Braves fan for life. I mean, just dollars.
So that's all I'm saying. So this goes like, and you're right on Alex Anthopoulos and the value, but this really has nothing to do with Anthopoulos, because if Anthopoulos was given the opportunity to sign Shohei Ohtani, I don't think there's any chance. So this is all about ownership. Now you got an ownership, but like I don't think like the Liberty Media, you can say anything about, like they're obviously a smart company. Like these guys are billionaires for a reason, right? And they're thinking about this. If you're thinking about this, think about the value of the franchise. Just like you like think about the value. You're talking about now one of the most valuable franchises in all of sports just by signing this man. So they're smart business people. Like they are seeing this in like you said, like dollars. Like the value of the franchise skyrockets, the money you make skyrockets, all this stuff. Like there is value in that. And so this is really not even, to me, an Alex Anthopoulos thing. This is an ownership thing. It's going to be whose owner cares the most about what Ohtani brings and the value he's going to bring off the field just as much as on the field. And that's where, you know, we've not like we've been pinching pennies over here in Atlanta, but this could be the opportunity because Liberty Media has they're billion dollar. They have the money to make this happen, right? Is it worth it? Do they say, hey, like this is something that I'm willing to invest in? And at that point, you're not even really investing as much in the baseball team as you are the player, the star, your own franchise and stuff like that. This goes on so much past baseball, and that's why the Ohtani thing's so intriguing, and that's why these sweepstakes and stuff, and that's why I think you're going to see teams that come out of the woodworks that aren't necessarily the biggest spenders and are like, oh, you know, I'll give you $600 million, and that's why this thing could go crazy because it really extends further than baseball.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, he's like, you know, Taylor Swift comes to town and she affects the economy. Ohtani is his own economy. Like he will come and completely change your franchise. You could be in the dumps and he will add a B to whatever your net worth is. That's how big he is. He changes the economy wherever he goes.
Yeah. Hey, well, coming up after the break, Georgia gets a huge win over the Ole Miss Rebels. Are they the top dog in the country again?